Hello and welcome to my channel. We're going to do something a little bit different today. I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind as somebody who is an entrepreneur and is running her own business and trying to do a bunch of creative things on the side. And I was looking into the idea of the 12-week year. So, the 12-week year is a book by Brian P. Moran and Michael Lennington that basically separates every year into actually 13-week years with 12 weeks dedicated to focusing on a goal or a few goals at once, and then a reset week at week 13 to move forward, learn the lessons that you did from the first 12-week year, add those to what's going to happen next. I read the whole book. I looked into the 12-week year for writers since that is what I do. I wanted to pursue this because I lost, it felt like, the first 5 months of my year. I was still working a different job. That job was so stressful that I ended up with eye issues and burnout from leaving a job that I really should have left a long time ago. And I feel like I just wasn't making progress on my creative goals because I was feeling so empty. And now here we are. It's September. I've got 16 weeks left in the year, I believe, not 12. And I haven't hit any of my creative goals the way that I was hoping to. So this book felt like something that would help me. But reading through it, there are a few things I realized need to happen before a 12-week year can happen. And that's what I wanted to share, specifically from the perspective of somebody with ADHD. But I think that these are all going to be true regardless of where you are, regardless of whether your projects are creative or not. I think that these are four things you should do before you even try to do a 12-week year. So, the first thing that I think you need to do is know yourself. This is twofold for me that I think is really important to understand. You need to know who you are, first of all. Like, how do you work best? Like, what worked for you in school? What works for you at the job when you're self directed, when somebody else directs for you? Um, do you need to conquer procrastination or commit to only doing one thing? Like, I'm guilty of doing a lot more than that. Do you need to practice following through instead of abandoning projects when they get hard? Like, what problem sent you to the 12-week year? I feel like this is something that you're not going to stumble across. This is something that you find because you have a pain point in reaching your goals. What is that? What is it that you hope to accomplish that you don't normally do? And why do you think it's going to help? The second thing that I think you need to know are your passions. What do you care about? What do you feel your zone of genius is, where you are both good at it and you love doing it? I think that in order to succeed at a 12-week year, you need to be passionate about the goals that you choose. If you have parents that are like, you need to be a doctor, and you set a goal for 12 weeks to take the next step toward becoming a doctor, but you actually want to be a visual artist, you probably won't succeed because it isn't something you're passionate about. And for better or for worse, trying to accomplish anything, even a goal that is achievable in 12 weeks, is going to require effort. It's going to require working on something when days are hard, not just doing it when you feel like it. So I think that it would be nearly impossible to succeed at doing a 12-week year if what you are trying to accomplish is not in line with who you are, like with what you care about, with how you think. It's, I think, vital to know who you are first. And for me, going through this, just to, like, I promise that I'm doing this for myself too. I spent like 25 pages in a journal making sure that it was possible and smart for me to try this. And for me, I know that I need to commit to finishing the parts of the projects I'm passionate about that are not as fun or that I'm not as good at yet. I'm writing a musical. I want to make progress on that. I have been writing stories for more than a decade. I've been writing lyrics for 25 years. I have not been writing music nearly as long as either of those. And so I've been putting off doing chord progressions and entering things into a scoring program so that other people can actually read it, creating demos, all of that. I know that I need to commit to doing the hard parts of the thing I love, and that is why I'm choosing to do this, and to commit to doing really one thing only. Or in this case, I have made myself two goals for my 12-week year. One of them is my musical, and the other one is to keep working on the Notion projects that you've seen elsewhere on my channel. I also think you should try something else first. Like, honestly, this 12-week year, this program that it lays out is intense. It is difficult. It is not like a beginner's introduction to productivity. If you can meet your goals with an easier system, you should. One of the things I think has been the hardest for me to learn is that there are no bonus points in life for doing things the hard way. Like, if I don't take a leg up from my friends who are in a career path that I want because I want to have to, go through the slush and get my book seen the same way as everybody else. There's no bonus points for that. There's no bonus points for turning down help. There's no bonus points for making things harder on yourself than you have to. So, with that said, if something else works for you, that's great. Do it. Bullet journaling is something I've been doing since 2016. Have you tried, that? A simple tracking of progress towards your goals. It could be that that measurement part is of the 12-week year is enough. Maybe all you need to do is be consistently looking at what you need to do for a week, a month, a quarter, and then looking back on your progress. If that's enough for you, then do that instead. Also, like an action plan, a business plan. Have you created a, a, a roadmap to get from point A to point B? Maybe following a roadmap is also enough for you. Maybe once you're like, oh, this is the next step. Like, I know for me, sometimes things can be a big amorphous blob of scary. Sometimes for better, when it turns out when I break it down, it's easier than I thought. And sometimes when I break it down, I realize that there's no way I'm going to accomplish this in 12 weeks or something. But creating an action plan and figuring out the next right thing, maybe that's enough. And both of these really are part of a 12-week year. But if you can get by on part of it, do part of it. Like I said, there's no bonus points for doing things the hard way. Now, this is the one I'm struggling with, honestly. Face your fears. I've watched a ton of videos on the 12-week year, people who are like, I'm going to do it. And it's a lot harder to find videos of people who succeeded, who meet their goals at the end of it. So, one of the things that was really important for me to do as I'm seeking to do a 12-week year was to ask myself, how might I self sabotage during this process? A big one for me when I was a little bit younger, when I had just graduated college, was a fear of failure. I put all of my personal self-worth in tangible accomplishments, I felt like if I failed at anything, I was a failure. If I tried to get a book published and I couldn't even get an agent, I was a failure. And that was something that I've actually spent a lot of time in the last 4 years, especially working on, is getting over a fear of failure, understanding that I am valuable, full stop. You are valuable, full stop. Away from fear, away from failure, away from what you do or do not accomplish. You can get to the end of 12 weeks and have accomplished nothing, and you are still valuable. People are inherently valuable. What you accomplish does not change that and never will. What I'm working through now is a fear of success. I found myself self sabotaging, not because I'm afraid of failure anymore. I've gotten really good at failure. The number of things that I have failed at over the past 6 years, 8 years in particular, is a lot. I have had failed courses. I have had failed attempts to launch Etsy shops. I have had failed attempts to grow my business. I have had many failed attempts at getting a novel published. I am really good at failure now. Not to brag or anything, but if you need somebody to fail at something, I've got you covered. I figured it out. I know how. On the other hand, fear of success is scarier. I've had ways where I want to temper my success, where if I start to succeed at something, I will back off. I had a video go do some numbers on TikTok, and then I stopped making videos on TikTok as often. I have found myself backing away from that final push of marketing when something is going well, because I'm scared of what success looks like, because I've never been there, not to the extent of success that little 12-year-old me who wanted to be famous, I've written about it before on Medium. If you follow me there, I've written about this idea where I was held up as this potential child prodigy to the point where I felt like the best I could ever do if I became world famous and got a Nobel Peace Prize, the best I could ever do was meet expectations. And that was scary. I also have watched people in the limelight that I've either been close to or like friends of friends or acquaintances. They're trying to get into an industry long enough, and you start to know people who are doing well. And success, if you're not in a good headspace for it, is potentially going to make things worse for you in the long run. And I was so scared of that happening to me that I wouldn't let myself succeed. I wasn't allowed to succeed. And so one of the things I'm trying to do with my YouTube channel now, with the musical that I'm writing, with the Notion stuff that I'm building because I enjoy it, I'm trying to find out how much success I'm capable of to manifest it, for lack of a better word, and see what happens when I follow through. I'm honestly still terrified of success. I'm terrified of like people coming at me for something that, they decide that I do wrong or whatever. But I don't think I'm too scared anymore. And I need to push that aside if I'm going to start like asking people to do cold readings of musicals with me, to start to enter contests, to start to ask for my musical to be produced. I need to get over my fear of success because my goals are too big to ever accomplish if I'm scared of accomplishing them. Finally, the last thing that I think that you need to do before you can try a 12-week year is set boundaries. They are a vital part of reaching your goals. I feel like the 12-week year gets talked about in a way of like this huge hustle sometimes. And I even said this, that a 12-week year is intense, like if you could do something else, do it. However, as important as it is to set boundaries around your work time, to carve out, 3 hours of deep work on a specific day to really sink your teeth into your goals, which is the first thing. Like, you have to say no to some people. If you want to accomplish things that you haven't accomplished before, you're going to have to turn some things away and focus and do the hard work. And I'm not thrilled about this part, but I have gotten better about setting boundaries around my work time. What I think is harder sometimes, as somebody who has legitimately asked myself if I could potentially like rest more productively, if I could find a way to just be a little bit more productive with my rest time so that I'm the best at it. Like, the 12-week year book is actually adamant about using this system to work less. One of the things that they recommend, maybe not your first month trying the system, but eventually, is to set aside a 3-hour block of time every week, ideally during regular work hours, although like that's not going to happen like if you're working in service or whatever. But a time when you would usually be working on your goals that you have control over, 3 hours every week to go do something else, turn your brain off, go take a class, go on a hike, do something unrelated to work for 3 hours every single week during the work week. There's a huge emphasis in the book of the 12-week year on not burning out. And I think that's because it's the only way that you can potentially see any sort of sustainability in your goals. It's the only way that you can really accomplish things is by allowing yourself free time, turn your brain off, focus intently, and then stop. Be a parent to your kids, make muffins with your son, go like play piano for a little while, assuming that you're not like trying to be a pianist for your goals. Like, play video games, enjoy your time, go on a walk. So, hopefully, this can inspire you as you are trying a 12-week year for yourself to look at what needs to happen internally in order to make a 12-week year successful. I will be doing my best to check in about how it's going for me over the next 12-ish weeks. I don't think it's going to be exactly 3 months for reasons I'll talk about in a future video about 12-week years for creatives. If you want to see that video coming up, go ahead and like and subscribe, and I will see you soon.